Hi, welcome to our session. In this video, we will be conducting an interview with architect Nick Amirul Faiz.
The interview will be about the professional study course. This is part of our final semester course in City University.
And this is Haneen Muhammad.
And it's me, Maysam Yunus. And I'm Lucy Katarina.
All right, without any further ado, let's start with the interview.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, hi. Morning.
Sir, we just wanted to thank you for your time and for giving us this opportunity.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
I'm Nick Amirul Faiz. Okay. Your lecturer, I think, Mr. Faiz, right?
Yes.
Has contacted me to say that might have a session with you guys. Okay. So I think based on today, yeah, we can start.
Sir, can you give like a brief history of the company that you're working in, like especially the clients and how you deal with like everyday responsibilities and duties?
In terms of history, I graduated from UIA, okay, IUM, and then I worked in a GDP architect for about 2 years, and then I went to Garis Architect. Over there, I stayed for 6 to 7 years. Yeah, and then I went out. I did my own practice as a sole proprietorship for NAF Architect. It's a short form for my name, Nick Amirul Faiz Architect. And then end of 2019, I set up a new partnership company. My ex-colleague from GDP as well. The name is HXN Architects, or Israel and Nick Architect until now. So now, at the moment, that is my current setup. Our office is in HXN. Later, I can show you some information from the website. I think that should be ideal for you to get a gauge of what sort of projects that we do, and you can relate how does an architecture office does their work, right? Okay, in terms of clients, my experience the past during my employment has been mostly corporate clients. Some of the clients that has been with me for the past 8 years from my time in GDP and also in Garis was SP Setia. SP Setia, I was involved in KL Eco City, the one beside Mid Valley, beside the garden. And then that was when I was in GDP. And then when I went to Garis, I was involved with Setia Eco Park project, Setia Alam. And then apart from that, another client that I think that I wish to highlight is during my time in Garis Architects. I stayed there long actually because of this one project that I did. It's called Tamarin Square in Cyberjaya, or outdoor tropical mall, very lush landscaping, and then there's some service apartments, right? So this client was the client that did PJ Trade Center in Mutiara Damansara. The brick building, brick and concrete exposed building, right? Yeah. So that was the client. I actually did the work for that client. Yeah. So I stayed there long because I wanted to follow through from start of the project until finish. Okay. And then only I went and did my own. So when I did my own practice as a young practice, definitely the big corporate clients were not able to appoint. Yeah. Because they have certain requirements, like they need at least 3 years experience and certain scale of manpower, right? So I started off very small. I did for personal clients, big bungalows. Okay, until today, these bungalows, some of it are still ongoing. Okay, but then along the way, after around 2018, 2019, I started engaging with corporate clients again. So that's when until 2019, I joined up with my ex-colleague to form up this partnership. And now we are doing multi-range of projects, even from bungalows, small projects, at the same time, big corporate proposal, the big proposal. At this current point of time, because of COVID-19, definitely we are just on surviving mode. Everybody is. That is what keeps us going. Any jobs that is easily completed within a short period of time, and at the same time, we can sustain the office. Yeah, that's a bit of history from my employment, my experience, and also the client side.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir, I have my second question. The journal project that the company involves.
The current company, big projects are still on proposal stage. The only thing that is ongoing, under construction, are the bungalows.
I'd like to ask the third question, which is, what's your favorite project in your career?
My favorite project would have to be during my time in Garis Architect. It was Tamarin Square.
Moving on, sir, regarding like your experience from previous companies, can you like share your first 5 years of your experience being an architect?
Yeah, I think I can only share with you like the first 5 years of my career, I guess, because I think different architects would have different experiences, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, but I can share with you what I went through for the first 5 years, meaning after I graduate, what did I do, right? So as I mentioned, I started my work in Archi Center. That was the first office, mainly because it's nearby. But then GDP offered, so I went to GDP architect, right? So over there, I think what I value most was the process of the work, the level of standard that they impose in their project. So the level of quality is what I've been exposed to. Okay? So over there, being a big office, maybe one of the challenges is you are always given a certain department, or you are in short terms we call it compartmentalized. You're only given to do this task. You will repeat over and over again, just doing that, right?
You're not flexible
So
to explore
yeah,
other.
that's flexible. So and then another thing is they had to do that because of the scale of project. It's very big, right? So you need a whole team. So everybody will be doing certain tasks. So that's the challenge being there. However, in terms of exposure, being a big office like that, you can actually learn a lot. It is in the end dependent on your own will, your will to learn, your will to explore, right? So over there, you will interact with all sorts of people from the HR, the printing department, other teams. Big office they have multiple teams, right? So each team will have their own way of doing work. But then when I was there, after my second year, project that I was working on, I analyzed it, and according to the construction, it is going to take 2 years just to build the basement, for KL Eco. So I had to make a decision. I asked my employer whether they can offer smaller projects I can be involved in, right? But they at that time they couldn't offer that. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go out, find another office. That's when Garis offered me, Garis Architect. So when I went there, the whole new environment, whereby Garis Architect is a medium-sized firm, but they operate almost, well, they are technically like a small office operation kind of. So the good thing there, when I did the Eco Park project, it was smaller scale project. So it is basically terrace housing, semi and bungalow. So your process is very fast and you learn things quite quickly, especially in project management. So that's my third year. So my third year and fourth year, I was doing generally that, more to the construction side, supervision, also detailed drawing, doing tender. That was the process I was involved in. So my first 2 years, mainly in basic design development, all the front end. Then in Garis, I did the back end, construction, supervision, and so on and so forth. Right? So I did that for also about 1 or 2 years. Then after that, I think the third year was when the project Tamarin Square came in. Oh no, actually the second year. Second year of me being in Garis, Tamarin Square project came in. That's what hooked me and made me stay in the firm for long. Because that project, I did it from scratch. I designed it and then saw it through until completion. This completion of phase one. I didn't do the whole phases. So that's the first 5 years of challenges that you face. Based on my experience.
Complex, but later it will work out in the future.
Yeah.
The advice that you give it to architecture students.
Well, I'm also teaching part-time in several universities, so I always tell the students the same. Number one, architecture, very unique course. It's mostly about self-learning, self-discovery, all those. Because when I say self-learning, meaning you have to do first. When you do, then only you know whether is it correct or is it very simple thing like, when you come show a design. Most of the time, students will come and say, sir, I plan to do this. I plan to do that. But they don't show me a drawing. So I cannot read your mind, right? So most of the time, I'll tell the students, okay, if you plan to do it, go do it first. Then you come. So it's a matter of self-learning. You have to push and do. You have to draw. You have to make it. Then your learning curve will be faster. Okay. What was that? Self-learning. Yeah, self-discovery. So when you do that, by actually discovering yourself, what is it that you like, that you don't like. When you self-discover yourself, you will mature faster. So throughout your career path, then you will know what to do. Like, okay, when am I going to be a registered professional architect, or am I going to focus on project management? And then you can plan your career path. Usually my advice to the students.
Yeah, I'm working hard.
This will bring us to another question, which is what are the important skills that you would advise students to prepare before joining the industry?
Well, definitely when you're in school, you are taught to draw, right? Manually. So actually in the industry, sketching is very important. Sketches, your ability to sketch. It doesn't have to be artistic, very pretty pictures, sketches, but it's sketching to solve problems. So when you know each line that you draw and you're very certain what line represents what, that is a very important tool. That's number one. Okay. Of course, number two is the ability to design process. You know, the layering of butter papers, that is actually very, very, very important too, that many of the students nowadays don't do. But actually that process is very important and very integral when you go in working life later on, because you are required to solve sometimes immediate problem, right? So this butter paper tool is a tool that will help you to layer. You do layering, right?
Yeah.
So you start to, for example, you have 10 items in a particular problem. When you layer one butter paper, okay, you zoom in on the first item, you want to solve this, and that becomes one component, then another one, you know. So that is second most important tool, the process of problem solving, okay, or solution, I would say. Thirdly is definitely your computer tools. You need, well, in current times, you need to be well versed 3D software. Even I think SketchUp by default, you have to know, and not just the basic. If you just do the typical basic SketchUp or 3D, then I don't think you will be prepared to work in as a part 2 architect. You need to be equipped with current trends of designing, you know, with parametric design, all these very fluid forms, right? You have to be familiar with all these current technological 3D modeling software. So 3D software knowledge is important. If you don't know all, at least you know SketchUp, you know currently Revit, and at least some basic rendering like V-Ray or Lumion, right? So that one will make you be well equipped to work and will meet the employer's expectation for a part 2 architect or part 1 even. And then on top of that, you also have to know what is the emerging technologies. Like I mentioned just now, parametric design, right? So there are certain softwares that can provide you an algorithm of how to generate certain complex forms. So if you don't know how to use it, it's fine, but have to know the principle. How do they generate that form? Because when you know, then you have a broader understanding and a broader look at how to approach this sort of design, you know. Then when you can demonstrate that level of maturity, that understanding, then of course your employers will be impressed. Like most important thing, I guess, organization is a part of it. You need to be organized and you need to structure how when you approach a project, right? But most importantly is when you go out, you carry the same thing like what you learn in school, especially the drawing part. Because for example, you go out, you do a project, you are asked to do a design and detailed drawing. Yeah? Being a fresh grad, definitely you don't know how to develop a detailed drawing, for example. You only know the basics, right? But definitely you can get references. Okay. Okay, so maybe your seniors in the office will share to you. Okay, this is one the detailed drawing. Okay, so when you have a detailed drawing, you want to decipher how to solve it, right? So that one definitely you will need to draw. You start off with the intent and then you start working out the details. Okay, so this one same thing. It is the same thing like in your studio years, your school, because lecturers are there to guide you. They are not there to spoon feed you. So if you expect to be spoon fed during your study time and you have the same attitude during work, then you are not going to progress. Because in working it is the same thing. You have to do first. You have to prove, okay, I've done this. Then you seek help. You ask for the seniors. Sir, can you see? Or Mister, can you see? Is this correct? Can I ask you for some help? You know, how do I solve this? Right? Then only they can help you, because they cannot be doing things for you. Otherwise, what's the point of them employing you, right? So you need to do the work. And when you have a mistake or you need help, then you ask for the guidance. And the senior architects, bosses will always be there to assist you, because in the end, it's their project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything bad from that project is definitely a reflection of them, right? So those are the important,
Alright.
I would say, things to carry through.
So, how do you balance function with aesthetic appeal?
Oh, how do I balance it? This is usually where people say form follows function or function follows form, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like,
yeah.
like, do you, Sarah, first think of the function and then you start thinking of the aesthetic appeal, or do you think first, oh, this will be the aesthetic appeal, and this will be the, so basically, is it form follow function or function follow?
Yeah, it's a very tough question. I would say in our office, or in my experience, as a young graduate, when I started working, definitely you always want to push for design. Like me, I'm very passionate in design, so I just want to start with the aesthetic first, and then the function comes later, right? But over time, you learn and you start to realize that your objective of an architect is firstly to meet the client's brief, what the client wants. Of course, not to say that the client asks you for A, you give them A, because otherwise they will say, what's the point I hire you? I might as well just do myself, right? Because I know I want A, but you already gave me A, for example. Okay, so as an architect, it is a skill for you to, number one, you have to translate the client's brief. What is the expectation? But when you deliver, you deliver more than what is expected. So it depends on the client and it depends on the brief. Certain projects requires function first. Okay. However, our office, we never neglect the aesthetic part, because to us, in the end, aesthetic or the look of the building is a reflection of us, right? So people will always say, who's the architect? This architect, oh, so good, things like that. So you never let the functionality to deteriorate the aesthetic side, right? Some projects, they want iconic, they want approach, a very fresh approach, right? So the client will say, oh, I want this to be very iconic. I want this to be like, wow, So yes, you start off with the form, you start off with the aesthetics, but same thing, functionality has to be there, especially in Malaysian context, or Asian, I would say. We are all very particular about space efficiency, right? Like Western countries, maybe they are a bit different. Some of them are very open to poetic spaces. They can do multiple forms, right? But in the Asian context, I think space efficiency is still important. Optimizing the spatial quality. So that's how we approach things.
Thank you, sir. It's clear.
The next question, sir, that I will to ask is, in your, what is the key to ensuring that after a building, actually before a building has been designed, how can you make sure that it follows the law and regulations?
Oh, that one is easy to answer. That's why you have to get your AR. That's why you have to get your professional. Because when you are a professional, you are expected to abide by the law. So any design you do, you are expected to comply to the law. Otherwise, you cannot practice as an architect. Very plain, simple. So I know there are cases where clients engage graduate architects, right, to do design here and there, but if they are not competent enough to ensure that everything is according to the law, then they might be in trouble. So it's very simple. When you're designing, you are, as a professional architect, you are expected to comply to the law by default. That's why as a graduate architect, later on when you graduate, you are supposed to gain the experience, right? Even though sometimes you already gain the experience, like maybe 3 years, you got your AR within 3 years, it doesn't make you 100% competent, right? But you are eligible and you are expected to be. That's how it is.
Okay. Other question about skills is, what do you think, like in your opinion, what is the skill that really helped you serve best in the architecture field?
I think personally, what has helped an important skill is 3D visualizing in your head.
Imagination,
So
basically.
yeah. Basically, I think over the years, I've trained my mind to actually look at things by, component wise, how to fix things together, right? Like yesterday, I was telling my staff, the movie, the Lego movie,
Yeah.
right? The animation movie, right? There's one scene whereby the hero, towards the end, he saw all these parts and he knows how to assemble it together, right? That is the sort of, I think, skill, if you can, to train your mind to think like that.
Sorry.
Yeah. How do you?
How do we train our minds to think that way? Is it just by experience, or is there something that we have to do get better in this?
Oh, this is a trade secret. No. I think, as I said earlier, the idea of using the butter paper as a tool is to break down into several components. So over time, when you know how, for example, a building works, you have the structure, you have the wall, you have the roof, and then how do you connect the roof to the column, for example? How you connect it to the beam, and then how does the window work? How is it fixed to the wall? So when you know all these elements and components, then your mind is automatically trained to think like that. So it works back and forth. Right now, if you graduated, you work, you are learning. So you are just absorbing, right? You absorb along the way, you learn, then you will improve. Now, when you're already there, say like 5 or 7, 10 years experience, you have already trained your mind to think. So every time you approach a new project, everything is there already. So how to get it is the ability to decipher a particular building into several components. And when you continue and doing it over and over and over, then you will, I would say, 99% be expert. You won't miss anything. The problem with construction is when we miss something from the particular specification, then it will be a headache. Like for example, there's supposed to be one particular pipe at a certain part of the building. Suddenly, for some reason, somebody went and delete in the AutoCAD or Revit, right? The drawing gets printed, nobody checks. Then when it's constructed, then the client say, hey, why I cannot have water source? Because we didn't check, we didn't, go through it. Right? So that's why you need a professional architect so that he knows and he will check. Although, yeah, some cases, some don't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So my question is, personally, how do you organize and prioritize your work as an architect, aside from having good time management?
A very tough question. If you want to say I'm a 100% well organized person, I think you're talking to the wrong person.
I think all architecture students and architects aren't organized at all.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's how we work. I think we work well in chaos. Architects work well in a mess.
Yeah, true.
That's why if you go to any architect's office, it's always things here and there, not organized, right? But that's why the main thing is when you're thinking. You have to train your mind over time. You need to mature yourself and know what are the important elements to complete a building. So that when you design, you are able to design, number one, and you are able to make it functional. And most importantly, the third thing is you don't miss anything. Because if you miss something that's important to the functionality of the building, that's it. You have failed as an architect. So answering your question, organized, I think I get another person to do it for me.
Okay, I think that's all for our questions. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us this opportunity. We really learned a lot from you.
Yeah. You guys are in masters or?
Finals. your bachelor, final sem,
Oh,
basically.
okay. So yeah, you'll be graduating as part one architect, right? So you still definitely have a lot to learn. Okay, guys, all the best. Hopefully you learn a thing or two.
Thank you.
Most importantly, don't forget, always have to do. Whatever is architect, we are always the first to be there, and we are always the last to be out in any project. So we are
Alright.
expected to be like that. Okay?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you so
Guys,
you,
much,
thank
sir.
you. Okay, bye bye.
sir.